Good morning. Today is 9 a.m. on Thursday, and we got a lot packed into this episode. So, we talked about presents, we talked about packaging. Now, we want to talk about which ocean are we going to go into? How are we going to take this big ocean of content, right? And narrow it down to our mini ocean where what problem niche are we going to get into? What problem niche are we going to solve? Where are we going to be known? What are we going to be known for in this big ocean? We're going to be known for something great, right? What problem niche are we going to be solving? And that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to teach you how to pick your problem niche. Let's go. Yeah, until I get one, until I get an intro, you know the deal. Listen, guys, thank you, man. Thank you for continuing to rock with me. If you know, you know. Please tell a friend to tell a friend that they need to tell a friend so we can all be friends. So subscribe to the channel. We got a lot going on. I was supposed to have 14,000 by the end of January. So let's make that February. We got a few more days. This is Black History Month. Let's demonstrate Black excellence. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to wait too long. We got a nice episode today. A lot of times when people are getting into content creation, they get into content creation, they don't have a guided strategy on where they're gonna be effective at, right? Like if you're a content creator, okay, you're a content creator. Or if you are a digital marketer, okay, you're a digital marketer. The thing is that that's a huge market, right? It's a very broad market. Now, if you said, I'm a digital marketer for podcasters, you see it narrows it down, right? Now we got to add one more problem to that, right? One more part to that. So I'm a digital marketer for podcasters that help you get past the struggling moment or the stuck moment, right? Something like that, right? Or I am the digital marketer for podcasters that have a great podcast but don't have the exposure they need. What I'm trying to say is I am niching down to the podcasters, right, that have the problem of getting views, getting downloads, right? I help podcasters get more downloads, right? You're doing a podcast for years and months or weeks or whatever you're doing it, episode after episode after episode, and it's still not growing, right? It's still not growing. What can we do to help this podcast grow, right? You have a problem and I have a solution, and I'm niching just to those podcasters. That's actually not a bad idea. It's not a bad problem niche because there's so many podcasts right now that are, stuck, right? They're stuck because it's an ocean of podcasts. How do they stick out? How do they make this person decide I'm going to watch this podcast versus this podcast, right? And there's methods, there's ways, right? But that's a problem niche, right? Because everyone's starting a new podcast, and now you have a good market. You have a good market. Now you just got to narrow in on that market, and that's what we're going to get into. Depending on what you're selling, depending on where you want to be in the marketplace, we're going to break down, pull back the layers, show you some frameworks so you can kind of get an idea on what exactly is going to be your problem niche. Hope y'all feeling good. Put a yes in the comments if y'all feeling good. Put a yes in the comments if y'all feeling good. Man, oh man, this has been a very, very crazy start of the new year. Yesterday I posted my video done by Nicole. Shout out to Nicole. It was when I did my speech at Create 26, man. It was dope, man. I wish, hopefully I can get the full recording because I want to dissect that and study it because I think that I have some really, really good elements in that speech that I could carry on to other speeches, and I want to make it a framework. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I love frameworks. I value frameworks. I realize that if I create a framework, you can take the same thing. You can take the same thing that I did My bad. You can take the same thing, the way I do it, how I do it, the effectiveness of it, and do it for yourself. So let's get into it. The problem niche strategy. Stop selling skills. Start solving expensive problems. Write that down. Stop selling skills. Start solving expensive problems, right? A skills market, right, is YouTube. It's very crowded. It's everybody. I can go on YouTube and learn almost anything. Right? But now if I focus on a problem, the problem market, right, where it's specific, it's urgent, and it's high value, then I'm solving expensive problems versus I'm trying to, do $10 problems versus expensive problems, right? So let's kind of get away from the skills market because that market is so massive, and let's focus down in the problem market, right? Put that down, problem market. We're going to focus on the problem market. Most people don't have a marketing problem. They have a problem niche problem, right? What am I talking about? If your offer sounds like everyone else, it's because you picked a skill like branding, fitness, or credit instead of a problem. The villain isn't the algorithm. The villain is generic marketing, right? The villain is generic marketing. Skills, like I said, equals crowded. Problems equals paid, right? Today, we will find one problem people will pay you to remove. All right? So put that down. Today, we're going to find one problem that people will pay you to remove. People do not pay for information. They pay for outcomes, right? If my wife, right, she just had, her tire is flat or it's a slow leak. And she could have went to YouTube and said how to change a tire. She could have got information on how to change her tire. Literally, this is just yesterday. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what happened with your tire. It's a brand new car. The tire is out already. She said, yeah, just the pressure just keeps going down. So she could get information for free, right? It's low value. I can go to YouTube and find out how to fix a tire, how to change a tire, right? Or she can pay a higher value for an outcome on getting her tire just fixed without figuring out the information. She wanted an outcome. The outcome is I'm going to pay you to fix my tire, right? And that's what she ultimately did. She took her car to the service. I had to follow her and take her back home, right? Now they're fixing her tire. They're waiting for a tire to be delivered, whatever the case may be. But the thing is that she paid for an outcome. And people are going to pay for an outcome. If they have a problem, you focus on the problem. Her problem was her tire is low on air. They will pay. She's going to pay for an outcome of her tire not having low air anymore. So the 5 drivers of value. Let's talk about that. Speed. Number 1, speed. The faster you can do it, the more valuable it is, right? The second part goes along with trust, right? Will it work? Certainty. Is it going to be certain that if I pay you for this, you're going to certainly deliver on the outcome that I am expecting, right? Number 3, reduction of stress, right? Is it going to give me a peace of mind, right? Like let's just stick on this tire. If I pay this person to fix my tire, am I going to have peace of mind that this tire is no longer going to go on low air? Number 4, the avoidance of loss, the protection, right? So how much is it going to cost me not to do it, right? How much is it going to cost me if I don't fix this tire? If I ride on low air, it's going to eventually mess up the rim. It's going to eventually mess up the brakes. It's going to cost me a lot more if I don't do it, right? And number 5, identity upgrade, right? Who will I become, right? Who will you become after you've made this transition and you made this massive purchase and you pay for this tire to get fixed? You're going to become someone that is confident, that could drive on long periods of time and not worry about your tire being flat. So that's the things that you have to think about when you are figuring out your problem niche, right? So let's define this a little bit more, right? A specific people, a painful problem, a clear outcome equals a problem niche. Write that down. A specific people, a painful problem, a clear outcome equal a problem niche. Write that down. Example A, generic skill. I do branding. It doesn't, we talked about packaging, right? Yesterday, and how we have to, we could be specific, but we have to pick who we're talking to. We have to, define, the outcome, all that in terms of the packaging, right? Well, it's the same thing in finding your problem niche, right? Instead of saying I do branding, I help new realtors create content systems that book calls. That is a problem niche, right? Because I'm helping realtors create content systems to book calls. Their problem is they don't have enough calls booked. So if you don't have enough calls booked, you don't have enough leads, you don't have enough possibilities, enough opportunities, right? It's just like we talked about in presence. If you have zero awareness, you have zero opportunity, right? So it becomes the problem, and that's the problem niche. Let's do an example number 2, right? I do fitness, a generic skill. I help busy dads lose 20 pounds without giving up weekend food, right? Who wants to get in shape? Me, everybody, right? We all want to get in shape. We all want the dad bods, but who wants to give up everything to have that? Mostly no one, right? But now if you tell me that I can eat what I want on the weekends and just follow your diet that you have me on Monday through Friday, that is a problem that I have because I can't stop giving up everything. Now you're solving a problem. You're saying I can actually get a dad bod without giving up the things I love. That is you're solving a problem niche. And that's the examples. I hope you follow me. Put a yes in the chat if you follow along. Hope y'all can hear me good. I gotta dial in on this microphone, so I'm gonna get to it. I always do. We taking one step at a time. Look, I added a new camera. We rolling. You know what I'm saying? We rolling. Look. Got a new camera watching me. You know what I'm saying? And it's dope too, cause when I get in my bag, I'll be like, yo, let's get in my bag. I'm getting in my bag. So I told you, listen, we're going to get this thing rocking, you know what I'm saying? We're going to get this thing rocking, right? We're going to go into it. So when I want to, I got to talk heavy, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to get up on stage and start talking my talk. This is the social exposure, This is episode 3, and we talking about defining your problem niche, right? We're talking about defining your problem niche. So when I get up on that stage, it's a problem. That's my alarm. So much going on today. Got a big day today. All right, let's get back to the other scene. All right, so the pain Olympics, right? You aren't allowed to pick a niche until you can pick a pain. Which one hits your audience the hardest? All right. So I'm gonna mention 5. I'm gonna give you 5 pain points, right? And you got to identify which one of these 5 are going to identify what's your category, right? Or what's your problem niche, right? The first one is money leak, right? Losing money or missing revenue. This is one of my pain points when I'm pitching to clients, right? You are losing money, you're not making enough money, and you're missing revenue. I just signed a client a couple of weeks ago, right? Because they were leaving all the money on the table, and I really witnessed. I did a data gap of how much money you're missing, right? And I'm like, we can pick up a lot of this money. So you're missing revenue and you're losing revenue because you're not picking up that money. So that's one of my problem. That's my number one problem niche, right? That's why people are going to hire me because they don't want to lose money anymore, right? So if you pay me to help you dissect your problems, your business, and formulate a strategy that doesn't allow you to lose so much money, I'm just my work alone is going to pay you back tenfold what you've paid me, right? Another one is time leak, right? The inefficiencies, and overwhelmed. Like a lot of entrepreneurs are overwhelmed because they don't delegate, right? Teaching a system on how to delegate your business. Right now I'm overwhelmed, right? Because, you know, unfortunately I had a lot of things put on me, you know, due to powers outside me. Now I have to create a system that is, now that I'm in something, I can correct it, right? And create a system to withstand something like this. So now I know, and now I'm applying a new system in place. So when things like this happen, we don't have to worry about, you know, being overwhelmed or being inefficient, right? So time link. Number 3, status leak, right? Entertainment, you know, imposter syndrome. You are trying to, you're watching everybody else. You're trying to be somebody you're not. And what happens is you feel like you're not good enough. You're not the one. You are not able to compete or make content or be an entrepreneur because you've been living a lie, right? How do we get that confidence back? How we borrow confidence from someone like myself to transfer it to you so you could say, I could do this, right? And that could just be a problem, Mitch, right? The imposter syndrome. Number 4, relationship leak, right? Conflict, right? You have a lot of conflict and trust issues within your business, right? You feel like the people that are employed by you or that work with you, you can't trust. They're doing things that are unethical or untrustworthy. Those are other, you know, things, and you could just play on that, right? Partnerships, right? I do partnerships all day, right? That's another one. And then health leak, right? Low energy, poor sleep, burnout. Those are things that everyday entrepreneurs are going through, but these are the pains that you can identify that's in your category, and you can really lock in and pick one of those and go hard with it. So put it in the chat, which pain that you identify with in your category. Put the pain that identifies with you in your category. All right. Listen, man. I don't know. This wall is so hot. Yo, it's so hot. It's so hot. Oof. I'm gonna have to get a new wall. Something that's not that hot. All right. The problem inventory. Move beyond business theory. Audit your life experience. All right. Real life experience, right? List 10 problems you have solved in real life using these prompts. You ready? The frequent asks, right? What do people ask you for help with all the time, right? And I get asked so many things. That's why I end up learning so many things. But think about it. Write this down. What do people ask you all the time? Number 2, the survival. What did you survive that others are still stuck in, right? Is there something that you overcame that you see other people, you know, having difficulties overcoming? Think about that, right? We are identifying our problem niche. This is what this class is for. I want to identify your problem niche. And all these different processes and frameworks is going to identify your problem niche. Number 3, the fix, right? What did you fix in your own life that changed everything, right? What was one thing that changed? I got to say systems actually changed everything for me. Being able to incorporate systems in my life, it changed my life. Like, you know, that's really something I'm really good at. To like my son, right? He like, it was we went to an arcade, right? And I noticed that it doesn't apply, but it applies because on his level it does. It's the machine that you get the ball and you roll it up. You roll it up, and you're trying to get it into those little things, right? Each one is a different point. Now, obviously, if you get it into the one in the middle of the thing, it's the most points because the hardest to get. But what he thought was, he's like, why am I gonna roll it all the way up here? This is so hard. he created a system. He went around and instead of this large, runway of a way he had to roll it, he came up here and he threw it from here. So like it was much easier for him to get it. So he's looking for the most effective and efficient way to solve the problem, right? And that was one of the things. So the fix, right? Number 4, the frustration. What makes you mad? Because there's a better way, right? The frustration. What makes you mad? Because it's a better way. So list 10 problems you have solved in real life using these prompts. Y'all with me? All right, let's do the WHERE test. Who knows what the WHERE test is? Nobody? Well, you're going to know now. Write it down. WHERE. Put WEIRD, right? And I want you to, filter your ideas, right? Is it a business or is it a hobby? This is how we're going to realize, like, where we should be taking some of our time, where we should be spending more of our time with, right? And taking our time away from other things, right? Because we want to identify what's really a hobby and what's really a business, right? So who has it? That's the W, right? Who has it? Is there a clear, reachable group, right? Who has it? E, expensive. Does ignoring it cost money, time, or status? You got to answer these questions for yourself, right? These are identifying you, right? I is for intense. Is there emotional stress or shame attached? Is there emotional stress or shame attached? And R is my favorite one. Does the problem keep happening? Is it recurring? R is for recurring. Does the problem keep happening? That's my favorite one. And to complete the WHERE test is D, decision power. Can they actually pay for the solution, right? I want you to identify all the WHERE tests with your business, right? And you can actually make a template 1 to 10. Obviously, if you go put your email in, you'll get the documents and workbooks and all that stuff. But I want you to identify where are you at on each one, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, and figure out how are you operating? Are you operating in a hobby or operating in a business? This is going to let you know that what you're doing, if it's worth doing the thing that you're doing, right? So do that. If the score is low on expensive and intense, it is just content. It's not a business, right? But if it's high, then we got a business, right? So let's focus on each one. Like I said, 1 to 10, right? On each one, and write like 5 for one or whatever you feel, right? This is your test, right? All right. The price of the problem. People buy consequences of not fixing the problem, right? If my wife doesn't fix that tire, what's going to happen? It's going to be more expensive, right? So I want a logo. It's a commodity. It's a thing, right? It'd be like $50, not too much, right? Whatever, right? Versus my business looks untrustworthy, right? So I can't close high ticket clients. That's an expensive problem, right? Because they want to feel that they want to be trusted in the marketplace, right? Versus a logo, they want to be trusted in the marketplace. And they want it to close high ticket clients. That's a $10,000 problem, right? So now you got to figure out what is the elasticity of value, right? What is the price of the problem in your niche, right? Are you solving a $10 problem or are you solving a $10,000 problem, right? Is it a commodity or is it a consequence or outcome, right? Is it something that if I don't do it, it's going to cost me this? Or if I do it, I'm going to have this, right? Versus I'm paying a small price for this and I'm going to get this, right? Not really an outcome. I'm just getting a commodity. I'm getting a thing, right? That's the thing you got to think about, right? The one sentence niche formula, right? I want y'all to follow me, right? Write this down. I'm going to go slow. I help who, put it in the avatar, are struggling with problem, write that down, problem, the painful symptom, right? Because of root cause, why they fail, right? Root cause, you got to fill this in. Fill in who, problem, root cause, right? They fail, get a specific outcome, the result, right? Without what they hate doing. We want to figure out who, right? Who are struggling, right? The problem that they're having, right? What is the root cause of that problem, right? And what is the specific outcome that you are going to provide without them doing something they hate, right? No one wants to do something they hate, right? So let's break down. I'm gonna give you two. That one is too broad, and the next is a little too generic, and the next is something that is going to help, right? So the first one is I help entrepreneurs grow. Too broad, no specific problem, right? I got to keep hitting this in your brain, right? Because this is a series. We're on a series, right? We're on the social exposure experience. So it's going to be a lot of things that are going to be, repeatedly said, because I want this to be second nature to you guys, right? So, and it's a series. The series already been built out. I already did the word vomit and everything for this whole entire series. So I know what I'm teaching every single day and every single class, but every class is connected to each class because it's moving along the ladder, right? It's moving along the sales process, right? I help coaches get clients. See, that was very specific, right? It was better, but it's still weak in commodity because I help coaches get clients, right? So how do we put all this stuff, right? I want to create a niche problem. I want to be in the marketplace and I want to solve niche I want to be the one. I want to focus on a niche problem, right? So I want to have a specific, write this down, a specific avatar, a pain, right? A root cause, because we just went over this, an outcome with no sacrifice, right? So so I'm gonna give you an example. Write this down. I'm gonna go slow. I help new speakers. Write this down. I help new speakers. So now I want you to take this exact sentence and I want you to change it to apply to you, right? So I help new speakers who sound generic, right? I help new speakers who sound generic. Write this down. Y'all writing it down? Put yes in the chat if you're writing it down, right? Because they don't have a signature story without copying other speakers, right? I want you guys to write this down, right? Because take the different, because it has a specific avatar, it has a pain, has a root cause, has an outcome, and it has no sacrifice. I help new speakers who sound generic because they don't have a signature story, build a talk that gets them paid bookings without copying other speakers. Y'all got that? Market the symptom, own the root cause. Market the symptom, own the root cause. As you market the symptoms, you're going to get more views, more clicks, more likes, more follows, all those things, right? I need more clients, right? That is the symptom, right? But what is the root cause? Your offer isn't tied to a painful problem and you lack proof. Your offer isn't tied to a painful problem, you lack proof, right? What they say, what you fix, right? I need more clients. Okay. Your offer isn't tied to a painful problem, you lack proof, right? That is market the system, own the root cause, right? My credit is bad. You lack a system and keep repeating financial behaviors. Deep content comes from asking, what's the real reason this keeps happening, right? The root cause flip, right? The root cause flip. That's what I call the root cause flip. I need more clients. Your offer isn't tied to a painful problem. You lack proof. Y'all got that? All right, so this is the final one. And I'm gonna give you a checklist, right? The proof path, right? Proof is currency. If you don't have it, build it on purpose. And you'll kind of understand what I'm doing. Literally, I'm building it on purpose, right? So now, if you notice what I'm doing with this YouTube, with my content, with becoming the greatest speaker in the history of the life, you'll notice that this is the exact proof path that I'm taking and that I'm doing, that I've done for others, and now I'm applying to myself, right? Your results. What you did for yourself, right? That's what I'm doing now. I'm showing you what I did for myself. That was the element that I didn't have in my brand. I've always worked on everybody else. I've never worked on someone else, right? Number two, micro wins. Small victories, document it clearly, right? I am documenting 13,000 views. I am documenting every time I get on stage. I'm literally doing this in real time for my own brand. You know, I've done this many times for other people. Now I'm doing it for my own brand in real time. So I want you guys to really, really analyze and listen to what I'm saying, because this stuff really works, right? Borrow proof, public analysts of other case studies, right? Public analysts of other case studies, right? That is people that you've done, or people that are in similar problems and that they overcame, or you helped them overcome, right? Right? That is very important, because now you are giving, it's like when a lawyer is fighting a case, they pull back old cases to fight their case to win the new case. It's just like you're going to pull back old cases, old problems, old people's situations to convince people to understand that they need to fix the problem. Documenting the journey, that is something that we've always been doing. I just haven't done it for myself, but we always say record everything, showing the work in process. That's why I want to put a behind the scenes camera there. That's why I did on Tuesday, I showed you my setup. I never did this before, right? For myself. It's time to do the work, right? Do it. This is my proof path, right? And number 5, client results, right? What you did for others, right? What you did for others that is going to be the ultimate thing. And once you complete this proof path, your conversion rate will be out of this world. Out of this world, because you've created the staircase up to success. You create the path to success. And as long as you can understand this and, you know, have this in this framework, you're gonna be like golden. All right. So I just want to do one more thing before we go. This has been a long class, probably the longest class we've done, right? But this is the validation checklist, right? And a passing score is you have to have at least 3 of 5 saying yes, right? So get a pen and paper. You know I love my pen and paper, right? And I want you to write this down, and I want you to answer it, right? And be truthful with yourself. And if you get 3, you pass. If you get 4, you pass. Anything less than 3, you don't pass. So we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. But now you have a successful strategy on getting your stuff together, right? So first one is, can you find 20 people with the problem today, right? Can you find 20 people with the problem you're solving? Can you find 20 people today, right? Number 2, are people already paying to solve it, right? Are people already paying to solve this problem, right? That you are solving, right? Number 3, is there a clear before and after transformation, right? If they came to you looking like this, are they looking like this after? Simple as that, right? Number 4, can you get results, even partial, in 30 days or less? That is really huge. That's the time one, right? Time is number 1. Remember, we said time is number 1. But can you get some type of results, even partial, in 30 days, right? And number 5, the last one, can you explain it in 1 sentence? If you've checked 3 of 5 of these, then you're good. You've passed. You know you have a good problem niche. You know you're on the right path, and follow these different frameworks that I mentioned today, and it's going to be a lot much easier for you to market, get social exposure, right? People are going to be more attracted to you because now you're niching down to the problem, right? So when you speak, the qualified leads the leads that come in are going to be highly qualified now because you are speaking to the person, the exact person that is your client, right? Because you are going to be fixing and identifying with a specific person, problem, and outcome. And that is it, man. Thank you so much, guys. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow, Friday at 9 a.m. It's been amazing. I'm burning up, but I love doing this for y'all. I love pouring into y'all. And again, tell a friend to tell a friend that they need a friend to follow me and subscribe to me and hang out with me.